the mindset can inform so much of the work that you're doing. I think when I started my career, it was like, I just want to get here. I just want to be able to have a production company. I just want to be able to make movies. I just want to be able to make a TV show, whatever. And now here I am arrived. But what is that mindset? What is that level of gratitude? What is that level of love for the thing? I say all the time on my sets, I say to the whole crew, this is all made up and what we're doing is not important. And what I mean by that is not, hey, let's all go home, who cares? More that there should be no reason for anybody to be upset, angry, or frustrated. We are privileged enough to be making movies. And so the mindset with all of it should just be like, fuck yeah, we're having a great time. And like, we have the greatest job in the world. I'm Alex Donnelly, and I'm a culture builder. United States of Rugby came about. I was approached last January as just a documentary filmmaker in Chicago. The idea was to follow one team and get as intimate and personal with that team as possible. There's a ton of shows like this, following sports teams, following individuals. And so what is the sort of creative advantage that a smaller crew could have? And the only avenue that we kind of saw was if we could have unlimited access, then it changes how it's perceived. We don't have tens of millions of dollars in the way that an F1 show does, and they can go to Milan and, you know, have the drivers like on these beautiful boats. Like, that's not our story. And it's also not the story of rugby in America. Rugby in America is still very much at this startup phase, this early culture part. And so when we were looking at the project and trying to ID how do we tell this story, it had to be from we're able to be in the locker room, we're able to have access to these guys' phone numbers and be in their homes with their families in a way that isn't like, here's 15 people showing up. It's here's 4 people that have been with you for the whole season that understand you as an individual. And that, to me, was really compelling because you don't have an American audience that's in love with this sport yet, but you do have this opportunity to create these idols or these people inside the game that maybe you don't yet know, but you could, because they are incredibly talented, but they're also incredibly charismatic. And I thought of it as like this, what would happen if you could be in Michael Jordan's home before he sort of became the person he is, right? What does that feel like? And that level of intimacy of just this camera happens to be in the room and guys are still like, you know, making jokes with each other and giving each other a hard time, and you're also among that ecosystem, that really changes the way the series feels. There's a lot of lessons I learned on the United States of Rugby, and but I think the biggest one is that conviction and passion are some of the most powerful forces we have. If you can really find the thing that you are absolutely in love with and give it your all, I think that attention, and I think if you can find that flavor, people will come and viewership will happen, or success will find you. And I think we're all very obsessed with like, hey, has rugby made it in America yet? Or I'm a musician, do I have a massive record label, or am I a documentary filmmaker that's, you know, on Netflix or whatever? And I think success isn't linear, and it's also not, it's really hard to calibrate in a capitalist sort of world. What I think we should calibrate for is like the level of passion you have for a thing. And are you like so stoked to go into work every day? What is that level of gratitude? I mean, that gets a little bit of ooey gooey hippie shit, but like I think it's important. I think there's like a really, really amazing thing that I saw in these rugby players that was no matter how many people there were in the stands, no matter how many viewers there were on TV, these guys were ready to throw blood, sweat, and tears, literally, at anything, and make that game, make that product as compelling as they could. Yeah, the importance of mindset is something I think about all the time. It's as recently as last week, I am constantly identifying, re-identifying the patterns that I find myself in. You go, what am I doing and why am I doing it are questions I ask in interviews, but also I ask myself all the time. And I think that that can sort of sway your intuition into a more calibrated road. And what I mean by that is the mindset can inform so much of the work that you're doing. I think when I started my career, it was like, I just want to get here. I just want to be able to have a production company. I just want to be able to make movies. I just want to be able to make a TV show, whatever. And now here I am arrived. But what is that mindset? What is that level of gratitude? What is that level of love for the thing? I say all the time on my sets, I say to the whole crew, this is all made up and what we're doing is not important. And what I mean by that is not, hey, let's all go home, who cares? More that there should be no reason for anybody to be upset, angry, or frustrated. We are privileged enough to be making movies. And so the mindset with all of it should just be like, fuck yeah, we're having a great time. And like, we have the greatest job in the world. I think I want to create because it's the only thing I've ever known. And I think expression is the most human thing we can do. I think it's the only thing we're really doing. We're expressing ourselves. I'm expressing myself now. I'm expressing myself just the way I hold myself and the way I walk through the street and the way I speak to people. And I think the reason I want to create is just another avenue of that expression. I think sometimes words and motion aren't enough. And so if I can make a documentary TV show about rugby and it kind of tells me a little something about passion and about grit, then that's a beautiful thing. For folks who find United States of Rugby on Roku and are able to watch it, I think what I want them to take away is sort of twofold, right? There's the opportunity to find a new, exciting game that is being pioneered in America. I think about like the cultural implication of baseball as like America's sport and how cool it would have been to be in those early stages where you have all these titans and these idols, but you have a camera and you have access to those people. To be in the locker room with those folks would be insane. And that's where we are with rugby right now, is that the access of this show is like, we are showing the intimacy, we are showing the wins, the losses, the tears, that I don't think we will be capable of doing 5-10 years from now. Because I think these people will be idols. They will be titans. They will be the heroes of that game. So I hope that people who watch the show, I hope they take away a love for the game. I know my wife certainly has. If you're not a sports person, like I'm not, I hope you take away that if you stick with something that you're passionate about, that success will find you. And success has 1,000 definitions in 1,000 different ways, but I think it will. It will find you. What's next for us is we're in the process of making a feature-length documentary about the furniture dealers here in Chicago. So in 2020, there was this massive uptick of everybody wanting to fill their homes with pretty shit because you're looking at the same garbage every day. And so people wanted to be buying these beautiful designer couches or a pretty vase or this like eccentric lamp. And that was originally like a very fruitful thing that people could go to Facebook Marketplace and find. But because of COVID and because of the pandemic, or rather everybody being at home, that market's a little bit more scarce. But you have these guys actually just down the street from here at 329 West 18th, that big building right on the river, where you've got 8 different dealers, furniture dealers, who all essentially sell the same thing in the same warehouse. And if they're selling and looking for the same items, but they're all friendly with each other, where does sort of the competition and the coexisting stop and begin? And so that's what the documentary is about. It's got several different characters sort of all blending into each other, and I think it's going to make some waves. On paper, maybe a little less interesting, but on film, I can assure you there's a lot of drama. So in addition to making documentaries, I co-own a production company called Post Golden. We do everything from videos for your local coffee shop to companies like Nike and Timberland and Apple, whatever, and sort of everywhere in between. I have a model that we really attach ourselves to, which is this like Robin Hood model, that I make all of those projects on the higher end for a lot of money, and then I take those resources and that money and I adapt them to our local coffee shop or our buds who just opened a storefront, and I try to deliver them that same cinematic, like high quality stuff that those brands that are paying tens of thousands or $100,000 are getting. Yeah, Post Golden is quote my day job. As a production company, we're on the west side of Logan with a studio space, and do, like I said, commercial work, everything from sort of food and bev to product to more like docu-style product stuff. So it's a beautiful thing, but it only comes from the willingness to say yes often. I think no in my inbox is so rarely there. But I also do it because I love it. I'm Alex Donnelly. Thanks for checking out 24/7 HH.